All right, let's look at another example. We're going to factor another complex trinomial. In this case, 4x squared minus 16x plus 15. So your first step whenever you're factoring these is that you should always identify your a and your b and your c values. So 4 is going to be a. The b value is going to be negative 16. And then the c value is going to be 15. Once you've identified that, just like in previous examples, I'm just setting up my cross here so that we can kind of keep track of the product and the sum and that mental math that's going to be required at this step. So first you have to figure out what is the value of a times c, which in this question is 4 times 15. So that it will be 60, and then the b value is negative 16. So then you have to find two numbers that when you multiply them together equal 60, and then when you add them together equal negative 16. So take a minute now, pause the video, think about what those numbers would be based on possible factors of 60. Alright, so the possible numbers that we could have there are going to be negative 6, and negative 10. Because these would multiply together to give you a positive 60 and add together to give you negative 16. So once we have that, again, these two numbers that we found, those are going to become new coefficients for the x terms when we break up this middle term of the trinomial. So we break it up and then factor by grouping. So we can rewrite this expression as 4x squared minus 6x minus 10x plus 15. Once you have this expression, now that there's 4 terms, we can start to factor by grouping just like we did earlier in the unit. So I'm going to chunk it up into 2 chunks that we can hopefully create common factors for. So between 4x squared and negative 6x, there is going to be a common factor of 2x. If you're not clear on how we got 2x as the greatest common factor, please send me a message, review some past lessons. I'm not going to go into detail on how we got that in this video. So 2x, that's our greatest common factor. And then to figure out the terms that go in the brackets now, you divide each of these terms by that greatest common factor. So 4x squared divided by 2x, that's going to be 2x. And then negative 6x divided by 2x is going to be negative 3. If it wasn't clear how we got either of those numbers, again, please reach out, send me a message, and also review some of the past lessons. I'm not going to go into detail in this video how we got those two things. So this is our first part. And then we have negative 10x plus 15. A common factor between those two terms is going to be negative 5. And then once you factor negative 5 out of this second chunk of the expression, you are going to get 2x and minus 3, which is what we wanted, so that we would then have a binomial that we could factor out that was common. So now this is binomial common factoring, which is a type of problem we've also seen earlier in the unit. So one of our brackets is going to be based on what's kind of the leftovers, what's not within a bracket already. So that'll be 2x minus 5. And then our other set of brackets will be 2x minus 3. And again, this works because this is like the distributive property in reverse. 2x multiplied by everything in this bracket, and then minus 5 multiplied by everything in this bracket. These two lines are the same. So this here would be the final answer, the factored version of this trinomial expression. And then we'll also show it using the slide and divide method. So for slide and divide, we will start off by rewriting the expression. And our first step, slide the a value over to the c value, and then rewrite the expression so that it's a trinomial instead, multiplying this number by that number. So a new expression for us to work with will be x squared minus 16x plus 60. So then once we have this, it just is going to be similar to factoring a simple trinomial, which should not take us very long since we've already identified the integers that will multiply to 60 and add to negative 16. So this means that this is going to become x minus 6 times x minus 10. So that's factoring a simple trinomial that we had seen in a previous lesson. Again, you noticed how I put an arrow here and not an equal sign? If we use this method, we have no right to put an equal sign down the solution because this relies on a lot of math tricks. You can still get the answer, but there's not an equivalence from step to step. So please remember that if you're choosing this strategy on an assignment or quiz or test. So now we have the factors here based on this simple trinomial we created. And since the a value is 4, what we're going to do is divide each of these integers here within the brackets by 4. And with the slide and divide method, if you're choosing this strategy, here's another thing you have to remember. If you ever have improper fractions, you have to reduce those fractions into their lowest terms. So again, if you like fractions, you think fractions are easier for you, and equivalent fractions are really easy for you, this is a good strategy because it's pretty quick. But this strategy does not rely on using fractions at all. So there's something for you to think about when you're picking your strategy. So now we're going to rewrite this as x minus 3 over 2. So x minus 3 over 2 times x minus 5 over 2. Because 6/4 is equivalent to 3 halves, and 10/4 is equivalent to 5 halves. Now the final step is we're sliding that number 2 back in front of the x at the very end. So here there's the divide part, and now here's the slide part. So we'll finish up with 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 5. And once again, that's going to be our final answer. So both strategies can get you to the same final answer. Just going to have to pick which one you're more comfortable with.